This is a get to know me video and kind of sharing where I've gone wrong with credit. So I was a teenage mom. I graduated high school when I was 17, started college right away. I turned 18 my second semester in college. I got my first credit card outside of the cafeteria at the university. For whatever reason, I never took out a student loan. Really didn't have a plan on how to pay for college. But my grades were poor that first year. My daughter was very small. I didn't have a car, didn't have much money. I was working in the library and I would work during the summers for the company that my mother worked for. And that was basically all the income that I had. It wasn't much. And it was an expensive university. For back then, it was probably $5,000 a semester. So anyways, after that first year, I drop out. I'm just working at Blimpies and working telemarketing jobs or, whatever I could find. And this leads to the lean years. I lived in about 4 different places within a 2-year time span. And during this time, I continued to get more credit cards. I got one of the first credit cards I remember getting was Sears when I was at the mall. And I bought a bed and some things for my daughter. And, from there, over the next few years, it was, Macy's, New York and Company, the Children's Place. I had a lot of store cards. I had a lot of major credit cards. And I was reliant upon them. And I was not able to pay them off right away. During this time period, when I was young, early 20s, I didn't have much of an understanding of anything, keeping up with the change of address, keeping up with, giving a company my address so they could send me my W-2, my car registration, just basic things like that. I my car taxes. I didn't know. I wasn't told about these things and wasn't keeping up with them properly. And because of that, I ran into some more financial issues and it was a struggle. And I was gifted a car. So then we at least had our first car. And I got a full-time job. I've been working full-time since I've been a teenager. Probably 19 when I got my first full-time job. And at that time, I got an apartment. My rent was $5.25, and I was earning what came to $8.08 an hour, so less than $17,000 a year. And this went on pretty much throughout my 20s. I was going to school part-time, obviously weekends, nights when I could fit in a class here and there, but it probably took me 11 years to complete my first degree at that rate. I was getting some tuition benefits from my company, and then my husband wound up getting a job at the same university where I had started out. So then I got tuition benefits that helped me to finish college. So I've described this, my 20s as a period when I was underemployed. But after looking up the definition of what that means, that wasn't true. Underemployed is a situation when you're, working part-time, but you want to be working full-time, or you have a skill and you're being paid less than your skill level. And I was in neither one of those situations. I had not obtained a college degree, and I was working roles that did not call for a college degree. I was just annoyed and frustrated with the amount that I was earning. But I worked in an office. I put on an outfit. I went to work. And I think a lot of the people around me didn't realize that I was dissatisfied with my job situation. So finally, after working at the same company for over 11 years, I had graduated from college. I was working on a master's degree, and I got pretty much my first job in my field. I had my second daughter a little before I got into what I call my first real role, and I was over 30 years old at that time. So I wound up working for that company for a few more years before it was acquired by another company, which led to me getting laid off. But because I had been with the company for so long, there was severance and retention, and I left that job and found another job within 2 months. So the next company that I went to, I wound up working there for 4 years. And again, they decreased their presence in the state that I live in, and it just led to, I wound up getting laid off again. But during this time frame, between the severance, retention, my father had passed away, my grandfather had passed away, the second role that I got, the second company that I wound up working for, I was making the most money that I had ever earned. So I was in a place in life when, for the first time, I really didn't have any worries about money. I had a savings, I had a buffer. I had the emergency fund. I didn't have to really worry about car tires or car repairs. I had enough to get through anything that came up. Okay, so after that role ended, the second company that I worked for, I got laid off again. And then I was just in a bad place in life, very depressed, going through a lot of emotional turmoil, and I wound up not being able to find a job. I was home for several months, and then I just wound up taking a temp contractor role, and I did that for nearly a year. So with that, I wasn't earning what I was used to earning in, my previous position. And I was looking for a job and couldn't find anything the whole time that I was working the temp role. And again, I just became, my circumstances caused me to get depleted. And I truly thought that I had enough savings that I would never be in a position where I wanted for money or I needed to worry about money ever again. But it happened. After working the contract role for about a year, close to a year, I would say maybe 49 weeks, I got a full-time offer, and I'm still currently in the role that I moved into at that time. Not making the money that I was making previously, say 5 years ago, but it was the first full-time opportunity that was presented, and I really did not want to be in the position of being in a contract role again. I had never in my life been in a position where basically you have to work to get paid. I didn't have any vacation time or sick days, personal days. I just had to go to work. So I really didn't want to go through that again. I just wanted to have a permanent opportunity with some amount of benefits. So I've been in this role now for a little over 3 years, and I have used that time to, again, dig myself out of debt. And hopefully going forward now, I have really, truly gained knowledge and experience, and I have the buffer of the emergency fund, and I'm responsible with credit, and I should never, hopefully, never run myself into a situation where I have to put myself into debt. I mean, things come up, but I try to just manage it in the most responsible way, And even if I don't need to take advantage of credit, I do. Like if I have to do home repairs, for example, I replace my fence. The Home Depot, if they're giving 24 months interest free, I'm just gonna, pick up my materials, take advantage of the offer and not rush to pay it. Just pay it at my pace, and then I can focus on, if I do have something that does carry an interest rate, I can focus on that. If I do have medical bills that come up, I can focus on paying that in full, because I know that, something is at 0% or a much more reasonable rate. So not exactly a debt confession, because as I said, after I don't know how many, I feel like, so many years of not having the earnings that I wanted, I put myself into a lot of debt. Thankfully, I was able to at least buy a home after living in my same apartment for about 6 years. But if it wasn't for, at that time, getting a loan of basically 103%, I don't know that I would have been able to buy a home. I've always gotten through. I paid the credit cards. Maybe I had a high utilization, but I was always paying the minimum, and, I made it through without, destroying my credit score or anything like that. But credit card debt was a big part of my life for many years. And now I don't ever want to be drowning in debt again, because I've been there. And I know how to prioritize my wants and needs, and I save for the extras. So this video is just to give a little background of my journey with credit, and the disaster that it led to. But it was pretty much out of need and necessity. I wasn't really going on vacation or buying expensive things. I was just trying to gas, food, clothing, regular things, but because of what I was earning, I wasn't able to keep up with paying these things off, and they accumulated. And then when larger things happen, like, the car repairs, you need to put a roof on the house, the plumbing is giving issues, those are not expenses that I was able to then address in any kind of a timely manner. So that's it for today. Just a little spiel on what my last 30 years or so have looked like. And now going forward, as I said, I'm hoping this time around that I always have the buffer that I need with an emergency fund and a plan on how to manage any obstacles, financial obstacles that I am faced with.